Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Kiss and Hell by Dakota Cassidy. Narrated by Charlotte North. 1. Boo. You're kidding, right?
Nope.
Maybe you should try again. Only this time, do it with more feeling.
Okay, here goes. Ahem. Ooh.
You're not serious, are you? Like, really?
Completely.
Wow, that's too bad.
What's too bad?
That you're not kidding. If the plan was to scare me, here's the thing. You suck.
That was rude?
Sometimes the truth is rude.
Don't you mean the truth hurts?
That too. And now it's time for you to go. Delaney Markham waved a dismissive hand behind her shoulder to shoo away the voice of the ghost she was chatting with in her head. The male ghost she was chatting with in her head. Occurrences like this happened more often than not. She was used to surprise visits from the other side, the constant interruptions, and sometimes even the errant, unwanted visitor when she was in the midst of trying to make a buck. But tonight, she had other things to attend to, so her supernatural buddy would just have to hang on to his drawers for a little longer. Delaney resumed her seance position, latching back onto the hands of the family members who sat on either side of her, armed and ready to contact the dead. "Aunt Gwyneth, are you here with us?" she asked, nothing more than the thin air. The people gathered round her table shifted in their wooden chairs with expectation, the lone candle she'd lit highlighting their faces rife with the fear, expectation, and wonder of the unknown. She could literally hear them not breathing. Aunt Gwyneth's family was tense with a multitude of emotions, as most were during a seance. Delaney's wind chimes tinkled appropriately, much the way they always did when a spirit entered her herb store in the East Village of New York. For some reason, the spirits liked to play with the chimes to announce their arrival. The familiar shiver of reverence, mingled with otherworldly anticipation, raced along her nerve endings, settling deep in her belly. That meant $800 was but a question or two away. The chimes fastened to her ceiling shivered once more. Ding-dong, spirits calling. She smiled to herself. Sweet. Aunt Gwyneth had arrived.
Look, I said boo, as scary as I could. It's all I got.
And apparently, Aunt Gwyneth was keeping some pesky company. Noted. And didn't we just go over this? Delaney mentally whispered with building irritation to the voice that wouldn't get out of her head. A voice now officially fucking with her much-needed paycheck.
So, why aren't you scared?
The husky, not unpleasant voice queried. His words whistled in her head, swirling in a seductive siren's call kind of way. Please, as if. It would take a shitload more than some disembodied voice whispering something as lame as boo to scare her. She knew scared. Scratch that. She knew shit in your pants, full-on terrified, and she wasn't going back. Because this happens all the time to me. It's what some might say is my calling in life, and after the shit I've seen go down, not much scares me, especially a word as weak as boo. And one more time, for the record, I'm busy. Go away. Find another medium to stalk, she relayed mentally as sternly as she could. Delaney cleared her throat and turned her attention back to the Dabrowski family and their desperate need to have questions answered by their beloved Aunt Gwyneth. She asked once more. Aunt Gwyneth? Your family is here, and they have some questions for you. Come, talk to me. She used her soft, cajoling the dearly departed tone to woo Gwyneth into communicating with her.
Damn right I have some questions,
Gwyneth Dabrowski's nephew Irv said, interrupting Delaney's mojo with his gruff impatience.
I want to know why the hell she left the vacation house at the lake to that weirdo Leopold, What kind of a frickin' name is that anyway? A stupid name, that's what. All playing with roses like they were his friends and doing weird crap all the time. He was the gardener, for Christ's sake. The lake house should have been mine, the piece of shit.
Another rustle of chairs and the crinkle of an expensive leather coat greeted Delaney's ears.
Irv, shut up already, would ya? Didn't Miss Markham say we had to be quiet while she called on Aunt Gwyneth so as not to provoke or frighten the dead? Do you really want to piss Gwyneth off in death the way you did when she was alive?
Irv's wife, Edna, chided him with her nasally, thick New York accent.
Oi, Irv, you never listen. Now be quiet and let the lady do what we came here for.
I hate to interrupt again,
the man in her head apologized.
but I just have to know, what's a medium, and why would I want to stalk it?
Delaney scrunched her eyes shut. This was not the time to come across a wayward spirit looking for guidance, especially when today, of all days, she really needed some cash. I'm a medium, and you're interrupting my very carefully planned seance. Now go away. I have rent to pay.
That still doesn't explain what a medium is. Do you mean that's your size? Because you don't look like a medium to me. I'd have gone with small.
Delaney suppressed a giggle. At least he was a complimentary spirit, and far too put together for her liking. In fact, he didn't sound disoriented on this plane at all. Look, didn't I just say I was busy? You're not the only freaking spirit out there, and right now, I'm being paid by a very nice family to contact their dead aunt. You, on the other hand, are what I'd call a freeloader. One of those spirits who think the whole spirit world revolves around just them, and they can infiltrate a seance whenever they feel like it. I have some pretty strict rules about that, especially when cash is involved. And seeing as you're one of the rare ghosts who has his wits about him, you get it when I say, knock it the hell off. Go back to wherever you came from and visit me during my normal business hours. Capiche?
But you still haven't explained the medium thing to me.
Whoever Pushy was reiterated in a soft but steadily increasing insistent tone. Again, you're not listening. And to top things off, you're being exceptionally rude. Now shut up and go away before I send out the spirit world's version of a SWAT team and have your ass dragged off to some alternate dimension.
You can do that?
Okay, so no, she couldn't do that. Color her caught. That would be way overstating her importance in the spirit world. Delaney sighed. Look, do me a solid, okay?
Solid.
Yeah, you know, like a favor?
Oh, sure. What do you need?
Wow. Again, she couldn't help thinking he wasn't at all like the typical spirits who darkened her doorstep. He didn't seem even a little confused about where he was, nor did he seem terribly agitated. In fact, his tone was almost too friendly, which again made her suspicious. Here's what I want. You two shut up now, for the love of all that's holy. Please, before the dogs start to bark and I lose my shot at making some cash.
You have dogs?
6, all as supernaturally sensitive as I am. If they sense an uninvited presence, one that's hacking me off much like you are, not only am I doomed, but so are your eardrums. Now please, let me finish this up and then we can connect.
You have 6 dogs? 6? Doesn't that break some kind of law, or at least an ordinance?
I'm sure it does, but it probably won't be the first law I've broken or the last. And tell me something.
What's that?
He rumbled, sort of husky and almost too easygoing for her well-honed, ghostly antenna. Maybe he was a plant. A shiver raced up her spine. She didn't need this, not when the rent was due. Or maybe he was a dead actor. Dead celebrities loved a captive audience. They had one in her and contacted her often because of it. But he didn't sound at all familiar. Stirring from around the table refocused her on getting rid of this new entity. Is there a little old lady with you? Dripping diamonds and sapphires and wearing a red sweatsuit with white racing stripes down the arms?
Yeah, there is.
Then tell her front and center. Her family has some questions for her and I need...
The money. You said that. She says, and I'm only repeating her words, no fucking way.
He cleared his throat, the sound reverberating in her head.
Sorry, but that's what she said. Word for word. Honest.
His words made Delaney pause because they sounded so sincere. Maybe he'd been a Boy Scout in life. Or a priest. Shit. Priests were always a messy, messy affair when it came to crossing them over to the great beyond. If their deaths involved any kind of religious overtones or a stall in their faith, they were the hardest to convince they should go into what the living called the light. The light was sort of a sham as far as she was concerned. It wasn't always a light, if what some of the comments she'd heard just before the crossing were accurate. She well remembered the college football player who'd blown his knee out just before draft picks and had lost his chance to play pro ball. His version of what some would call heaven was Soldier Field, an endless stretch of green. Then there'd been the rich socialite. Her idea of utopia was an upscale mall with row after row of stores like Cartier, Cole Haan, and Tiffany. Apparently, sometimes the light was what you made of it. Your love for shopping or your dream of playing football in the NFL come true.
Didn't I tell you, Edna?
Irv interrupted Delaney's conversation with the as-yet unnamed entity. He let go of Delaney's hand and thwacked the table with his meaty fist. Edna's row of thick bracelets clanked, jarring Delaney's at best tenuous connection with Aunt Gwyneth as she, too, let go, rearing up in her chair and leaning forward toward Irv.
"Tell me what, Irv?"
Her words were raspy and clearly annoyed. Irv's wide, bulldog-like face screwed up, adding more wrinkles to his pudgy cheeks.
That this broad was a shyster, a fucking fruitcake. I told you this would never work. But no, you just had to throw some cash out the window like I piss it out in the damn toilet every morning to pay for your crazy ideas. This is a load of bullshit, and I want my damn deposit back, you freak, Irv bellowed.
And Irv's bellowing startled the dogs. All 6. Which meant there'd be no shutting them up. Which also meant her landlord, Mr. Lee, would be downstairs to hassle her toot sweet. Because it would remind him she was 20 days overdue with her rent. Fuckity fuck fuck fuck.
"Do you see what you've done?"
she scolded, channeling the interfering voice in her head and tuning out Irv's angry rants, now mixed with the incessant shrieking yaps of her dogs. His voice blew through her head, calm like a soft ocean breeze. All reasonable.
Well, that's what Gwyneth said to tell you. I was just doing what you asked. She also said she wouldn't have given Irv the fucking house on the lake if they'd peeled her skin off while she was still alive. He's a putz, she says. A no-good, lazy piece of shit.
Again, shutting up would behoove you right now, especially if you need my help. I can't concentrate on you and the Dabrowskis all at once. Now let me try to salvage some of this while I can, and you practice waiting your frickin' turn.
My turn for what?
She didn't have time to answer him. Irv had popped up with a squealing, protesting Edna following close behind him. The scrape of his chair against the floor, the stomp of his feet while Edna shot Delaney a look of sympathy, meant game over. The tinkle of the bell on her front door signaled their raucous, angry exit. Booyah. Delaney laid her head on the cool surface of her old wood table, letting her cheek rest against it. She puffed out a sigh of defeat while rolling her forehead over the hard oak. Damn these entities that couldn't be bothered with just a little consideration for a working girl. What about "get the fuck out of my head" didn't they understand? Always yammering, day and night, night and day, in her head, in the grocery store, while she was in the bathroom, when she was trying to wax her legs. And always it was at the most inopportune of moments, like the ones that involved cold hard cash. She didn't hate her gift. There were just times she wished she could put it on mute and finish a whole television program without experiencing other dimensional difficulties. The dogs, yipping as though someone was swinging them around by their tails, forced her to act. Placing her hands on the wood, Delaney pushed off to rise from her chair and head to the back of her store where her small apartment was.
"Guys, shut up!"
she yelled to her dogs with frustration. What do you suppose the dog whisperer would say if he could hear how unruly you knuckleheads are? Christ on a cracker! Cesar'd shit a pit bull if he could see your behavior. Didn't we just spend a whole weekend learning that I'm the leader of the pack? And when I tell you to can it, you can it? 5.5 pairs of soulful eyes collectively rolled when she entered her small makeshift living room as if to say, "Here comes the I will use the duct tape speech." 6 bodies in various shapes and sizes lined up on her couch, shaking with anticipation, their tails of various colors wagging. Don't you even give me the eye roll, you beasts. She waved a finger under their wet, eager noses. You know, it isn't enough that I saved every last one of you from the chopping block in one way or the other, is it? You'd think I'd be due a little grateful, but nah. We can't have Mommy earning a living or something crazy now, can we? I'm telling you, if you can't all be quiet, I'm not kidding when I say there's a roll of duct tape in your very near futures, and don't think— You really do have 6 dogs, the male voice said matter-of-factly, re-entering her head with the ease of applying room-temperature butter to toast. Now that she and the disembodied voice were alone, Delaney communicated as though he were standing right in front of her, even though he still hadn't made a physical appearance. For some stuck souls, it took time and even some wooing before they'd make themselves visible to her. Delaney clasped her hands together and cracked her knuckles. Yep. And thanks to you yakking me up in my head, the dogs heard the commotion from my irate customer. Then I went long with the Dabrowskis and pissed off that Irv. He wasn't exactly a believer to begin with, and you showing up didn't help one iota. She made a circle around her face with a finger in the direction the voice had come from. See this? This is my really hacked-off face. I just lost $800 because you wouldn't get off my cloud. Now go away and come back tomorrow. I'm too infuriated to ship you off to the other side right now. $800? You charge poor, grieving families $800 to contact their dead loved ones? His voice, silky smooth as it was, held a hint of indignation. Delaney planted her hands on her hips, the jingle of her bangle bracelets ringing in the small space of her living room, dining room. Please, save the righteous indignation. It's not like I can have a real 9-to-5 when you bunch keep popping up in my head unannounced. Imagine what it would look like to Walmart shoppers if I greeted not just the living, but the dearly departed, too. Some of you wankers can be really, really pushy when you want something from me. That includes you, pal. I do what I have to do to survive, and as you yourself can see, I'm for real. I really can talk to the dead. It's not something I do often, take money, I mean. But every once in a while, when business is slow in the winter, like now, I do what's necessary to make the rent and pay for my ramen noodles, okay? So don't be a hater. Sorry. His contrite mumble echoed in her head. Delaney groaned, flipping on her lamp with the beaded burgundy shade. It cast a pleasant glow over her very gloomy situation. Apology accepted. Now go back to wherever you came from until I'm feeling more like making nice. Right now, I just want to relax and watch some TV while I cook up another way to make some cash. Can I ask you something? Delaney ran a tired hand over her forehead, then yanked out the clip that held her hair up and threw it on the end table. Like me saying the word no has stopped you thus far? His chuckle, warm and killer manly, left a slither of a chill riding her spine. What's shipping me off to the other side mean? She ran a hand over each of her dogs' heads lovingly, reaching into the pocket of her floor-length floral skirt and feeding them each a treat. You know, up there. She pointed a finger to her water-stained ceiling. That's not why I'm here. Delaney plopped down on her small couch, sending her pack of dogs scattering to either side of her. Her half-chihuahua, half-poodle, her Poochie, as she dubbed him when she'd found him in an alleyway by her favorite Indian restaurant, instantly hopped into her lap, making her grunt while he settled in. She chucked him under the chin. From the size of him now, no one would ever know he'd once been skeletal and starving, scrounging for food in bags of trash. His stout, barrel-chested body had just recently tipped the scales at almost 18 pounds. Way, way overweight for what was a mix of two toy breeds. Way. "Dude, that's my ovary you're standing on," she reprimanded with a grunt, but her face settled into a warm smile. Each dog dutifully took its place beside her while she kicked off her satin slippers, crossing her legs at her ankles. "Again, let me reiterate. I kinda don't care why you're here right now. It's been a long day, I'm wiped, and I just lost 800 much-needed bucks. I have 6 mouths to feed, and you blew their kibble for the week because you couldn't wait your turn. That means you've stolen from the poor and now potentially homeless. Nice, very nice. Proud?" His voice came from behind her now, right over her shoulder.
"You talk about these mutts as if they're your children."
Delaney tilted her head backward, directing her gaze in the direction of his voice, somewhere near her window, letting out a gasp snort. "First of all, watch your tone when it comes to the dogs." She ruffled her one-eyed Shih Tzu Pomeranian's head when he stuck his face pointedly in hers, scratching him just below his fuzzy, multicolored ear. His one eye wobbled at her with that vacant, indirect stare Shih Tzus were famous for. Poor baby had been destined for the needle of nevermore, and all because he had only one eye. The shelter had said he was unadoptable. Delaney'd swept in and called that notion ridiculous, then adopted him and toyed with the idea of secretly calling him Cyclops, or Cy for short.
"My tone? We're talking mutts, here."
Delaney planted a kiss on his muzzle before responding. "They're not mutts. Not to me. They're my babies. Dogs who happened upon some misfortune, but were fortunate enough to find me and my bleeding heart. Second of all, they are like my children. Bonus being I don't have to pay for college when they grow up. And they can't ask to borrow the car. And it's not like I'm going to have any kids anyway. You need at least a date for that. And when wet blankets like you show up and rain on my social schedule at all hours of the day and night, demanding my attention, it makes it almost impossible for me to make a love connection. Feel me? No one wants to date the crazy pants lady who talks to herself." There was no self-pity in her statement, not even a little. Her life was what it was. There just hadn't been a man she'd come across who was strong enough to handle her otherworldly charms. Not so far, anyway. And even if that man never came along, she was good being alone. Well, there was one man in her life who got it. Her brother, Kellen. He didn't share her gift, but he believed. That she had one person in her life who understood was more than most who shared her gift had. Besides, letting other people become involved with her had some hazardous risks she'd just as soon not take. So, she'd stop taking them.
"I feel like I should apologize again. I didn't mean to insult you and your dogs."
Delaney lifted her head, glaring at her only purebred dog, a black dachshund with bladder control issues, who was tugging at his festively decorated dungaree wraparound diaper, trying to yank it off. She nudged him with a gentle elbow, drawing his soft, doe-brown eyes to hers. "You, knock that off. I can't have you peeing all over the place, or Mr. Lee will have my head. I did decorate the diaper for you, didn't I? Do you know how many hours I spent with that stupid bedazzler, hooking you up so you'd have pretty man panties? Now quit being so ungrateful. And you," she pointed behind her head at the voice, "should feel like apologizing again. You stiffed me out of 800 bucks. I don't suppose your bank account's still open on the other side now, is it?" His silence was palpable, resounding in her head. She nodded her head, affirming her statement. "Yeah, that's what I thought."
"So, you don't date?"
Delaney lifted herself off the couch, heading toward her small, narrow kitchen, 6 dogs at her heels. She popped her refrigerator door open, rooting around for some leftover hamburger helper. "Not since, 2005 or so, I think it was. Ira Warstein will never be the same, and I can't say I blame him. I decided right then and there, after he'd been cracked in the head by his mother's platter of carefully prepared gefilte fish, that not only did it look outwardly like I had some crazy going on, but people were now getting hurt because of me. So, end of. I'm just too hard to explain. Conversations like the one we're having, where only I can hear you, harder still.
You hit him in the head with a platter of fish?
She waved a hand at the voice, now in the center of her kitchen. Don't be ridiculous. I would never hit someone with anything, let alone a platter of fish. Our date was rudely interrupted by a very angry ghost who wanted my immediate attention and just couldn't hang on to his britches while I made polite excuses to leave. Delaney turned to stare at the empty spot in the room she'd pinpointed his voice in. Sound vaguely familiar? His tone was sheepish this time.
I'm apologizing again, right?
She shook her head in a firm no, brushing long strands of her auburn hair from her eyes. No, you're going away. I already accepted your apology. We're golden.
But I can't go away.
Yes, you can. It works like this. You disappear until, like tomorrow, while I feed the dogs, eat my crappy leftovers, and watch reruns of Ghost Whisperer. She looked down at the eager puppies who'd gathered at her feet the moment she'd opened the fridge door. We always watch Ghost Whisperer, don't we, babies? She cooed in a tone reserved just for her animals. His voice, if not his physical presence, remained firmly rooted to the center of her kitchen.
No, I can't go away.
For the love of some meaningful, much-needed quiet time, he damned well better. Okay, I think we need the big guns here. Are you going to make me sick Darwin on you?
Who's Darwin?
My dead Rottweiler. He's still with me in spirit, though I can't figure why he won't hit the endless milk-bone highway in the sky. We're a work in progress, even in death. But that does mean he's with you, too, wherever you are. And I hear his bark is definitely as bad as his bite. So scurry along now before I give him a ghostly ring-a-ling and he eats your rude, interfering, money-stealing ass. 5.5 pairs of eyes looked woefully in the direction of the voice, then back at her. Dinner. They wanted some. Delaney sank to her haunches on the floor, digging in her cabinets to find the last of the dry dog food she had.
So what are the dogs' names?
Delaney sighed and lifted the half-empty dog food bag to the counter, ignoring the fact that this entity was at least trying to sound interested in her life, the one he'd interrupted so pompously. Would you get the hell out of my head? You've long surpassed eager, and you're well on your way to bordering obnoxious. I really, really need to lay down some ground rules for you bunch. And it's not that I don't understand that most times you can't control how you pop in and out of my life, but you don't seem to have that particular problem. In fact, you don't seem disoriented at all. And as much as I'd like to delve right into that ghostly oddity of yours, I'm all out of patience. Now, for the love of Casper, go do ghost-like things and come back tomorrow.
I was just curious.
I know, and you know what they say about curious.
I'm already dead. That theory no longer applies,
he offered with another chuckle. One that wasn't terribly unpleasant. She threw her head back, exhaling with a ragged, put-upon sigh. Dog.
What?
Dog. The dogs' names are Dog.
All of them?
Delaney nodded. Uh-huh. And stop moving around so much. You'll scare dog number 3 in my adoption lineup. She pointed to her Lhasa Apso beagle, who was making continual frantic circles at what Delaney suspected were the feet of her overbearing entity, attempting to nab and capture her tail. She has anxiety issues, abandonment, food phobias out the wazoo, etc. As neurotic as a dieter around a plate of French fries, my baby is. In essence, your unearthly presence is making her crazy. And if you make her crazy, she'll chew up my carpet. I don't have the money to pay my rent because of you. Do you want me to have to pay for new carpet, too?
Why haven't you given them all names? You gave Darwin one.
Why does that interest you so much?
I'm not sure I know.
Delaney pinched the bridge of her nose. Tonight was definitely a night for some chamomile tea and a healthy dose of white willow bark. Okay, Q&A.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?